Stan, can you hear now?
Yay!
Jack George, okay. So Phil, talk into this one and we'll leave that one right there.
All
Try
right,
that.
thank you. Well, we're pleased to welcome Chris McIntosh, University of Wisconsin Athletic Director. Chris is a Wisconsin product. He grew up in Pewaukee. He played football at Pewaukee High School, then moved on to distinguish himself as a member of the Badgers football team from 1996 to 1999. He helped to lead the team to the Rose Bowl in 98 and 99. He captained the team in his junior and senior years. He was all Big Ten. He was a consensus All-American. Is there anything else left? Wow. Chris played 3 years in the National Football League, but an injury cut him short. He had to drop out. Chris had several years in private business, but in 2014, he joined the Wisconsin Athletic Department as Associate Athletic Director. Chris was elevated rapidly. In 2017, he became Deputy Athletic Director, backstopping Barry Alvarez. Alvarez resigned effective June 30th of last year. Chris was named to succeed him. There are many demands on Chris. It's a big job. It's a tough job, but it seems to me that he's well suited to the challenge. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me today. I appreciate the backdrop. As was mentioned, I'm a product of Pewaukee High School, and I think what's relevant and what wasn't, what was left out of my bio per se is to mention this. So I'm the first person from my family to go to a university like this, a four-year institution. And the way that came about for me was because of an opportunity made available because of sport, because of football. And if you had known me in high school, 16 or 17-year-old, you might have been left with the impression that I wasn't exactly, well, in high school, I wasn't even an all-conference player in football. And, I came to the sport of football late, my freshman year in high school. What really put me on the radar for Coach Alvarez was wrestling. I ended up winning the state championship in wrestling my junior year in high school. And I think what that showed to Barry and to his staff was that I had potential, even if it was potential that I didn't realize myself I had. And so, it was a big step for me to come to Madison in the sport of football. It was huge, but also as a student and also as a person socially. And, as was mentioned, I had a lot of success here, and we had some great teams, and largely in part because I had the honor to block for a great running back and had great teammates, and we had a nice run. But what I didn't realize at the time was my athletic career was, I just by way of comparison. So I set the Big Ten record for consecutive starts, 50 starts, which back then was as many games as you could play. And what I realized was I was really lucky to be able to do that. It's sure, at the time, maybe I would have said I was just tough and just grit my teeth through it. But a lot of luck in that. Luck in that I didn't sustain a really serious injury. But that caught up with me in Seattle and injured my neck and caused me to have to leave the game sooner than I had thought. What was impossible for me to quantify at the time was how valuable this degree that I came out of this university with, how valuable the lifetime value of that. And at the time, like most young people, not all that different than the young people I get to work with today, and maybe you can relate yourself when you're in that phase of your life. It was impossible for me to see this kind of lifetime value proposition. And but I see it now, and I often think about or reminded of how different my life would have been had it not been for me, the sport of football, and for somebody to see potential in me that I didn't see in myself. It set me on a completely different path to attend a place like this, to have just rich experiences on and off the field, and then it's turned me into the person I am today. That though has translated into, I got 3 kids. One that's about to go off to college, my oldest. She actually just graduated from high school. She's going to go to Colorado State in the fall, actually in June, to play volleyball there. I have a sophomore and a 7th grader, but they see a world of possibility in their future that would have been impossible for me to have envisioned. My oldest 2 want to study medicine. I didn't know a doctor when I was their age. I had no access to sit down and talk to somebody. And so it's just created the ripple effects from this are really powerful, and how it's played out in my family. And I was a kind of a lower middle class kid from Pewaukee, Wisconsin. And what you'll learn is, as you get to know me, is what I'm passionate about is how an opportunity like the one that I had, and how it had how it changed my life, can change the lives of so many kids that come through here. And so it's really it's a story that's not the stories of our student athletes as they matriculate through our program and go on. The kind of story that I'm talking about is a story that's not really one that's widely known or told. There's a disproportionate amount of attention that's placed on and in particular 2 sports, football and men's basketball, disproportionate. But the story that you don't hear very often is the story of someone that came through a program that was came from a far more challenging situation than I did in Milwaukee. As part of that's kind of always that's the mission, like one that's forwarded here, and we're really grateful to have when we go into when our coaches go into a living room and talk to young people and recruit them, they talk to the parents, to be representing a university like this one with as high of quality of an education as this one offers is really an asset for us, and it's something we don't take for granted. Now, in the context of all this, it's not a or. And so, my job is to advance this this organization that we have, this department, our programs, in a world that's changed more. My job was effective on July 1, as was mentioned, very done on June 30th. But it was really my world changed Memorial Day weekend when it was announced that this was going to happen. And so if you think about what's happened since Memorial Day weekend, change in leadership was announced at the athletic director position. It's the third, I'm the third athletic director in 32. That's newsy in and of itself. And if you think about the 400 employees that we have and about 800 student athletes, that's a big change. Just that. But if you now think about what's happened since then, in the third week of June, the Supreme Court ruled in a case called the Alston case, which basically called the question the NC2A's ability to limit just about everything. What was in front of them was educational related expenses and educational related awards. But the opinion went on to criticize NC2A's ability or authority rather to put limits on just about anything else, essentially inviting further criticism and further lawsuit. And so that has already begun to play out. That was the third week of June. On July 1, name, image, and likeness took effect. And in that period of time, the last week of June, programs like ours that operate in states that don't have state law dedicated to name, image, and likeness, on about a week's notice, a couple days more actually, we were told that we should just develop our own policy on this, which has created a patchwork of law and policy across the country, inconsistent with each other. There's no one unifying law or piece of legislation or rule with regard to NIL. I'll come back to that later on. That was in July. In August was conference realignment, and you see kind of the plates, the tectonic plates of college athletics kind of shifting a bit, and that's the ripple effects of that are still playing out. It set in motion dominoes that are still falling. In September, the National Labor Relations Board issued an opinion that student athletes, particularly those at private institutions, should be considered employees. In October, our chancellor announced that she was leaving. And on and on and on. So the point of bringing this up is there's been more change that's happened, that's come about in the last 8 or 9 months or so than there had been in the previous decade, 32 years. Yeah. And and ironically, actually, this year we celebrate the 50th anniversary of Title IX. And so in 1972, Title IX was passed, and you could make an argument in terms of how change has come forth. It may not have been since then that you've had this much change. And so, and I want to be clear. I don't go through that litany of examples to complain about it, because there's plenty of change in here that's healthy. That's been overdue. It's just a reality. There'd be no use to complain about it anyway. It's just a reality. But the challenge that it presents rather is that the next 12 months, the next 24 months, while there's so much turmoil and uncertainty in college athletics, becomes really difficult to plan for and to plot a strategy. And that's where our time has been spent, is how can we preserve an organization like ours with the values like ours, competitive excellence, academics at the center of it, and doing it the right way, which I'd like to think that we all are proud of. How can that persevere? How can that actually persevere is not even the right word. How can that be enhanced? How can we get better? How can we build upon that? And since July, I've been talking a lot about we need to build upon the foundation that has been provided here. I inherited my predecessors, Barry and Pat in particular, have built an incredible foundation, a really strong foundation in terms of who we are, how we do things, and what the expectations are. And that's a great honor for me to be the next one trusted to lead that effort. But in the context of this changing world, how do we build upon that in a way that positions us to be successful in the future while holding true to those other things? And that becomes really challenging in an environment like this one, where, you know, there was a story about 10 days ago that was written about NIL. Names and institutions were redacted, but where a college football recruit is reported to have been paid or promised $8 million to play for a certain institution, all in the name of NIL. And where you see transfers from institutions now that are transferring and with immediate eligibility to go play immediately, not at the city year, which, by the way, in and of itself is not a bad thing. Like I don't want to sound like I'm grousing about any of these, but where you see young people transferring from one institution to another to pursue NIL activities, and that becomes a really challenging environment to operate in, and it contradicts where I started, and that is choosing an institution for this kind of 40-year decision instead of this 4-year decision, this lifetime value proposition. And now, you know, if you watch the games this weekend, you know, players that played 3 or 4 institutions in their career. And these are all, I don't know where that will land, and I don't know where we'll find some stability in this. I'd like to think, you know, this is a period of kind of long overdue correction. College athletics, just generally speaking, has been a really stable place, more or less, relative to other sectors for a long, long time. And now it's not. And so, but, you know, anybody in this room that's been in business or had a career in business understands that, you know, there's ups and downs, and there's periods of change. And we are certainly in a dynamic period of change right now in college athletics. And so, you know, our focus is, again, to advance the educational mission of our university so that our student athletes, when they leave here, and I hope their playing days are as long as they possibly can be, but on the backside of that, the value of their degree most likely will far outshadow the value of what their athletic earnings will be. Certainly, if they're thinking about those earnings in the form of NIL in college. But you know, we were all 17 to 22-year-olds at one point, and I try to remind myself what I might have been thinking if I had been participating in this model at a time like that. And it's, you know, it'd be easy for me to say, oh no, that, you know, I would just be married to the idea of the 40-year value proposition and a degree from Wisconsin. But, you know, it wouldn't have taken a lot of an opportunity to make me think about that. And I think that's what's happening right now. In the meantime, you know, this student athlete experience that we, or opportunity that we provide to these incredible young people. I mean, just it's the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning and brings me to work with a smile on my face. I mean, the most talented, incredible young people you can imagine. You know, that part of it is alive and well. And so that, you know, the more things change, the more they stay the same. So while the environment is changing, the type of kids that we recruit, that we bring into our programs, that we, you know, provide access to great people in our coaching, our coaches, and the all people around our program. You know, I've touted for a long time that that is our differentiator. It's the people here. It's not the buildings. It's the people, and that part of it is alive and well. And you know, ironically, I was driving over here and I'm listening to, you know, one of our basketball players, Johnny Davis, on the radio, repping Jockey, I think it was the brand he was repping. And, you know, you may have seen Brad Davison in commercials, and that part, I think, is, you know, that was, there was a lot of resistance against that, just generally speaking, across the country. But, you know, I think the idea that was going to ruin the game or ruin the players or cause them to take their eye off of the sport or their studies has kind of been disproved. And I think it's a healthy opportunity for them, or can be a healthy opportunity for them to think entrepreneurially, to earn some money outside, which you know, we all have the ability to do, and it can be, and we've been you know, supportive of that. It's different than the article that I referenced. What I'm describing is our young people going out to the marketplace and providing services in exchange for value, for compensation, and that's a monumental change. But I think it's one that didn't bring with it, you know, the boogeyman that we might have feared was going to come with it, at least here. You know, that's an interesting team to reference because, you know, they had a really incredible season, and, you know, maybe one that ended, you know, a little sooner than we all would have liked, but great chemistry, great talent, great leadership, great character, great representatives of this university, and it wasn't tainted by some of the developments that I'm talking about. It was done in a healthy way, and so it's kind of the model of how things can work. You know, I referenced somebody in the back asked about a finance degree, or if I had experience in finance. Maybe that was the question, which is becoming more and more the challenge. So, you know, this decision, Supreme Court decision in June, the Alston case, allows $5,980 per student per year to be awarded an academic award. And I won't bore you with how they came up with that number. This is a federal judge in the 9th district that did. Essentially, the thought process there was that's how much the NCAA allowed in the form of athletic award. If you add up kind of all the benefits of going to a championship, you could question the accounting of that, but that's the rationale. Well, that's about $4.6 million a year for our program, for the athletic department, and that's on top of all the other things that we're talking about, and not to mention, you know, there's a change in consumer behavior on how many games fans want to go to. It's not like it was in 1998. It just isn't. And I can relate to this a little bit because, you know, when I was in middle school or younger, you know, sport for me was a couple days a week after school. And now sport for my kids takes us all over the country and every weekend, and it's 5 nights a week, and there are just demands that are different than they were then. So all these things, you know, begin to add up and force us to have to rethink what our plan is for the next chapter of our organization, and that brings about change. And, you know, I'm very used to he wasn't shy about one of his kind of lessons or tenets was embrace change and trust that something good can happen from it, that something positive can happen from it, that there's opportunity in it. And that's the approach that we've taken. So, you know, if anyone in here is, actually, I know there are folks in here that have season ticket holders in Camp Randall for football. You're going to see change when you come to Camp Randall in the fall. In fact, 10 feet out of my office window is a south end zone that looks nothing like it did when you saw it last. And so there's this balance, and I bring that up as like it's a microcosm of everything that's going on. There's this balance of the tradition that's taken place in a building that's meant so much to all of us versus a change that needs to take place because we need to make sure that we're relevant 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now. And that's a responsibility that I take very seriously. And so as you read about, before I turn it over for questions, as you read about the changes taking place in college athletics, I guess I'd ask you to do a few things. One, so much of the national narrative is about, say, the top 1% of college athletes. And just be reminded of the 99% that are going to, that they're, the earnings that they're going to make because of their degree from wherever they go to college. But if you just kind of bring back home here, you're going to far outshadow what's being debated right now. The education at the front and center. I fear that education is being lost in the debate on college athletics right now. And where we land might very well be determined by Congress, which yeah. But there's not enough debate about education, nor is there enough debate about broad-based opportunity, which I haven't touched on today. So here we have 23 varsity sport programs and approximately 800 athletes. And that's something we're proud of. That's something we fought very hard to preserve, certainly during the COVID challenges, financial challenges. And I think much of the debate that you talk about loses sight of education and opportunity for hundreds of other kids. We've got 650 kids that participate in sport programs here at the University of Wisconsin that just happen to play a sport that doesn't generate any revenue. And the model that we have grown accustomed to, and that the way that happens is because, or the way that we're able to provide that opportunity for those kids to play and to get an education here is because of football and basketball. There's no secret to it. And I think that's the first question that needs to be debated. Is that the model that we want for our country? We're the only country in the world that tethers education to athletics. Other countries, they're divorced from that. They're private club systems. And I think, I'm a believer in the model that we have. My wife, who was on a crew team here for a period of time as an alum here at Wisconsin, while I maybe didn't realize it when I was 19 or 20, how important that was, I certainly realize it today. But anyway, just to kind of wrap up, as you hear about and read about all the changes that are taking place in each of these issues, independent of the others, it's really easy to get down. It's really easy to lose faith in college athletics. It's really easy to be critical, and there are plenty of things to be critical of. But I just ask that you remind yourself of what the mission of our organization is. There's a long-term view of things. It is going to require us to bring about change. It is going to require us to adapt. If we don't, we'll be left behind. But just know that the spirit behind this change and our strategy will be grounded in those principles. And that might require a level of trust, but I guess I'm asking for that. So with that said, I'll turn it over for some questions.
Thank you, Chris. Chris does have a 1 o'clock meeting back on campus, so we have roughly 5 minutes
John Hickey.
The term one and done
Mhm.
is quite pejorative, I think. And my thought is, when you recruit with that in mind, that you might have a one and doneer.
Well, I'll say this. Let me, there's a few thoughts that come to mind. So the term one and done, and that's a term that came about mostly because of basketball. Okay? But football requires 3 years post high school graduation before kids are eligible for the draft. So you can call them 3 and done if you want. Okay, that is just that. All that is to say is that there are these limits that are in place that motivate, or maybe in some cases require kids to come through a college system that wouldn't have otherwise. So a one and done is an easier example to focus on. So what's emerged while the one and done rule is still in place. By the way, that's not an NC2A rule. That's an NBA rule. As is the 3. That's an NFL rule. That is not an NC2A requirement. Okay, which is worth questioning. Okay? But what I am a proponent of is choice, and I think choice in a marketplace is a good thing. And so, while for years that one and done rule has directed kids into a college system that may not be the choice for them, and who had no desire to go to college or to participate in college. And so if they had choice, they could other options that would alleviate pressure off the college model and would be better for them. And so I think you see in the last few years, you've seen the G League of the NBA, the minor leagues of the NBA, in essence, have become a more it's a more lucrative opportunity for kids, and so some of those kids are choosing to go that path, which I think is a step in the right direction. But with that comes consequences, and I think we need to be prepared to live with those. And that is, it's not to say that every decision is a good decision to go that path, but we fight that now, versions of that now. Yeah.
How many teams does the university have competing at the interscholastic level?
At the high school level?
No.
Oh, here. 23. We have 23 programs. Yes.
How many male, female?
Well, we manage our.
Because you have to have equal numbers
We have
of
to have,
student athletes, male, female.
yes, opportunity. Yes. So our rosters are balanced in proportion to the gender mix of kids on campus. Yes, sir.
Better.
Do you, the department, track the students in support of the educational values further on into life to find out where they went and what they did?
Oh, yeah. Yes, but yes. Yes, more so than we ever have. Maybe a little known fact. So one thing we do today that we've been doing it for a while. It's not to say this started up since this summer. So we're tracking down student athletes that have left our program without a degree and paying for them to come back and finish it. And it's more accessibility is better today, or easier today, because some of them, depending upon the program that they're in, can do it online. And so that's a way that's not exactly the question you asked, but that's one area where we're trying to track down student athletes, letter winners that have left our program that could still use our help. But another version of this, though, is in our career and leadership programming, which, by the way, that's a department within the athletic department, or team within the athletic department. Didn't exist. Certainly didn't exist when I was here. And their job is to develop the non-student, non-athlete human and teach them how to fill out a resume or develop a resume, life skills. Yes, exactly. And we've got a person whose sole job is to develop relationships so they have career opportunities when they're done, whether it's when they graduate and their college sporting career is over, or if they want to go take a shot at the pros and then come back. The interesting thing is that person, as of recently, also oversees our letter winners, the W Club, our letter winners organization. And the idea there is to attract letter winners that have left that may need career assistance or may need to finish up their degree, but as much to solicit former letter winners to provide career opportunities for these kids and to try to create some momentum that way. Yeah.
Can you take one more?
Sure.
And repeat the question.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Last question from Ken. I'm sorry, but he has to go.
My question is, of all the different things that you do in your job as athletic director, when you look at the whole spectrum of things, what are the number one and number two priorities that you focus on?
Mhm. I'll cheat a little bit and say three things.
Three priorities.
Three priorities. Academic excellence, competitive excellence, and high integrity, doing it the right way.
What was it doing?
High integrity, doing it the right way, doing it in a way that we can be proud of.
That the NC2A won't catch you at something,
Well,
like other
Yeah.
institutions.
yeah, I mean, so that we can be proud that we're going about this in the right way. And those are my priorities, if distilled into 3 points. Yeah. Thank you very
Sorry,
much.
but Chris asked you first.
Thanks so much.
Okay, Jerry Schwach has our moment of reflection, so we'll move on here, but thank you so much, Chris. That was excellent to hear your perspective on the athletic department.
And I don't know anything about finance. Today, I'd like to reflect on our environment, and you could have guessed that anyway. I have several quotes from different people about the environment, and the first one comes from the Kiwanis magazine editors of about 2 years ago. Many of you probably read this, but never thought about it. But it is serving the children of the world also means addressing the impact of climate change. It's time for us to take responsibility. Several other people that you will probably recognize, Walt Disney said, "Landscapes of great wonder and beauty lie under our feet and all around us. They are discovered in tunnels in the ground, the heart of flowers, the hollows of trees, freshwater ponds, seaweed jungles between tides, and even drops of water. Life in these hidden worlds is more startling in reality than anything we can imagine. How could this earth of ours, which is only a speck in the heavens, have so much variety of life, so many curious and exciting creatures?" Pope John Paul II. "The earth will not continue to offer its harvest except with faithful stewardship. We cannot say we love the land and then take steps to destroy it for use by future generations." Teddy Roosevelt, founder of the National Park System. "Here is your country. Cherish these natural wonders. Cherish the natural resources. Cherish the history and the romance as a sacred heritage for your children and your children's children. Do not let selfish men or greedy interests skin your country of its beauty, its riches, and its romance." And finally, the Dalai Lama in part said, It is our collective and individual responsibility to preserve and tend to the world in which we all live. Here are a couple of ways that you can do your part. April 22nd is Earth Day. We can celebrate it by doing something to improve our Earth. And here's one thing that you can do to improve our Earth, the plug. We are scheduled to have our highway cleanup on the 5th Saturday. You knew that was coming, didn't you? On the 5th Sunday, or Saturday, not Sunday, 5th Saturday of April, which is April 30th. And you'll hear more about this, about signing up and so forth later. The other thing, as long as I'm up here making announcements, we do have another blood drive at the Department of Revenue coming up on Tuesday, the 3rd of May, a couple days after our highway cleanup. So you'll hear about that more as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. As a science educator, it was 25 years of effort to try to get teachers and everyone to understand what we've been doing to our planet, and that we all have to be part of the solution. Just a couple of notes from me. Next week we have Purple Cow coming out, which was an award winner, correct?
Yes.
So they will be here with a video, or
Probably.
okay, probably a slide presentation. In 2 weeks, April 11th, we have the Women in Saudi Prison System talk. That should be very interesting. On the 18th, it's Exact Sciences. We asked for an update from them because of some of their recent buildings that are going on and their rapid expansion and acquisition. So we have Wayne, not Wayne Larrabee, that's an announcer. Yeah, some similar name to that, who we had a couple, 2 or 3 years ago, talk about exact. Within the last year. Even the last year, okay, that's my memory. And then on the 25th, I know this is one of Richard's, the Mark Centers are gonna talk. So that's the April agenda. A couple other things. Meg and Richard and I were at the mid-year conference at Madison College for Wisconsin Upper Michigan Kiwanis, and we each attended different sessions, and Meg and I were in the club leadership session. I had gone through the training several times, but it's always good to hear new things, the same thing multiple times, and it kind of sparks some interest. Again, we're looking for somebody to step up as president-elect next year. Well, I'm putting together a small committee to start twisting arms. So if you're interested, there are a lot of resources. This is one that Kiwanis International puts out on Leadership Guide. It spells out what everybody's supposed to do in the leadership of a club. So there's a lot of resources. Meg will be leading that charge as president-elect to find the next president-elect once I'm over as president and Meg assumes the honor of being president. Something we haven't done for a few years, fundraising. I collected a sheet from Wisconsin Upper Michigan of all ideas or some ideas from various clubs around the region and what they do for fundraising. If anybody's interested in leading our effort back into the fundraising realm, this is a good resource. There's a lot of interesting ideas that some of which we've done and others we haven't. So there are resources for that. And the last thing I have to share, Ken Kosick got as foundation treasurer an invitation from Madison College to their scholarship awards breakfast. It's in person and virtual for April 28th, which is a Thursday morning at the Truax campus, so by the airport. We have an invitation since we did sponsor some scholarships for Madison College students. If anybody's interested in attending, let me know. I probably can go as a representative of the club, but I think we need somebody there to interact with their president, Jack Daniels, and their development officers, et cetera. So just an FYI, if anybody wants a breakfast up at Truax, let me know. Other announcements, Eileen?
Yes.
Guests, thank you for reminding me, and that's one thing I shared at the at Saturday's talk, is there are times when I forget to do things, and it's good to hear and have members remind me of what we need to do. We have a lot of guests today, and I'll start off with, I'm claiming Kevin Frymiller as my guest. Everybody knows Kevin, but Kevin's coming, and he's still considering coming back as a member. So welcome, Kevin. Thank you for coming. Dory, you have a guest.
Yes, my guest is Kathy Newman, and Kathy is the first week of the and something another thing too, she's former president of the Sock Trail Western Board, and she's a member of the West Side One.
Very civically engaged. Let me look around. We have several from East. You want to introduce yourself or yourselves?
Two of us showed up today, Russ Field and I'm Mike Ward.
Thank you. Mr. Cossack.
I have three guests. Jerry Miller needs no introduction.
Yes, Jerry, welcome back.
President of our club and was on the board of the foundation for many, many years. It helped with that because. And Stephen Gould, I worked with Stephen in the county, he was purchasing agent for a number of years, but then took over the financial responsibilities at the Alliance Energy Center.
Ooh.
Good, but not last. Glenn Lee, my old sailing partner, Glenn worked for Limnology, was in the shop there, helping graduate students, worked on was in the Navy with the aircraft carrier Enterprise, I believe, and but it's hard to believe a humble man like this is part owner of the Green Bay Packers.
Eileen.
I have with me Tyler Mischling. Tyler is a UW grad. He is a civil engineer with a company here in town. His father is a Kiwanian in Rhinelander, and so he is hoping to continue that
Family tradition.
family.
Eight.
My spouse Carrie.
Hey. And I think that's everybody. Great turnout. We have 30 here in person, I believe, and we had 4 or 5 online for a great talk. I'm going to again give props to Jim for the program. We are going to have a program committee meeting in a few weeks because he's running out of ideas and he needs to spark some thoughts in all of us. So if you have ideas for programs, share them with Jim and come to the program committee meeting, which we'll have. He wants to do it on a different day. I want to do it after our meeting so I don't have to drive in the second time, but we'll let you know. Or Zoom, we'll do a Zoom maybe. So we have lots of options, but think of people that we can get to come talk to us because Jim's been doing a great job for a number of years. Any other announcements? Dick?
While Dick's coming up, I have some Kiwanis news, hard copies. I'll set them on the way out. You can pick one up if you'd like one.
This last Saturday, it's the 4th Saturday in the month, and we did Wilmar, of course, served meals there. And those helping out were Abe, Tom Broad, Cole Williams, and Bob Brand, who's not with us today. But we had goulash, a lot of goulash.
Like he is here though.
Oh, Bob, you're behind.
It's that window. We can't see faces.
He's behind Tom.
Yeah.
Tom's a big fella. Okay. And we had goulash, had green beans, lettuce salad, mixed fruit, and cookies, and of course, including Coe's cookies. What kind of cookies were those, Coe? Not the usual.
Well, they were Neiman Marcus recipe for chocolate chip.
Chocolate chip, Neiman Marcus recipe.
Oh,
Okay.
fancy.
We served about 30 meals, and for the first time since COVID started, everybody came in to eat. They were still spaced well, and some of those who came in to eat had a bite and then took a carry-out home with them. And I had two other quick announcements. One was, should be of interest, April 11th. For the first time in a long time, representatives of the Key Club are going to talk about their activities. They're going to do it online, but they're going to key in just at 11 o'clock. Our speaker is going to give them 15 minutes. 12, I'm sorry, yeah, at 12 o'clock. And see, I need somebody to remind me too. And they'll do about 15 minutes, 10-minute presentation. We can ask questions. So that'll be fun. Come if you can.
And they're flourishing, right?
They're flourishing very well. Both the Key Club and the Circle K are doing very well in this area. And one last thing, sort of follow up on Jerry's moment of reflection. Another way that you can help save the environment is save those pill bottles so they don't go in the landfill. Thank you.
Thanks, Dick. Other announcements? Kevin?
I just want to thank all you the Kiwanis for the cards that you gave to Dad. And I wanted to let you know that on May 21st, I'll let Kevin keep announcing every week. May 21st, it's a Saturday, and I think it begins at 10 o'clock. We are having a celebration of Dad's life. We're doing it out at Token Creek Park, and it will go from probably 10 o'clock. We have the park from 10 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. And I'm not sure, exactly what we're gonna do, but we will have probably food and we'll be bringing stuff in, and it's just a time to gather and celebrate Dad's life. So, May 21st, Token Creek Park.
Thank you, Kevin. Today's talk, as Kevin and I were talking about, was one Herman was really looking forward to. He was an ardent follower of Badger sports, and unfortunately, the home NCAA meeting, remembrance party, I would put it that way. Ken?
I'd like to add to that and say that we have, the foundation has received very close to $2,500 in memory of Herman Partner.
Great, for scholarship, so great. Other announcements. Meg, do you want to share anything from Saturday? Yeah.
Digesting, it's like working from a fire hose.
Yeah. They throw a lot at leaders, and it was a nice gathering. It really was the first time we've had a Kiwanis gathering with multiple clubs, et cetera. There were probably 80 to 90 people there, I'm guessing.
Over the course of the day,
Counting the online people.
Counting online. It was well worth it. So again, I'll reiterate, we need a president-elect, somebody to step up. And there are lots of resources that are available to help you as you move into that role. Anything else?
Did we ever recognize, I don't think we ever recognized those people who helped judge the FFA speaking contest. I don't believe we did. I know Mike Ely, I think Jim Nemke, Leonard Massey, and Ken Kosnick helped at the regional, at the districts, and I think, Mike, you did at the sectional, didn't you? So thank you for doing that.
And I thought of something and now I forgot. Damn. Anybody tweak what I was thinking about up here? Oh, well. Oh, I know what it was. Kevin and I and Dick are the proud bowlers who are now in last place in our league. But the three of us have a lot of fun doing it. We just are up over our heads with the competition. I think the average is in the 210s for the league, and we are nowhere near that. Kevin used to be, but injuries have caught up with Kevin, and we just have fun. So if anybody wants to bowl next year, let us know. It's a lot of fun. I'm looking to do some social events, which is one thing we learned about on Saturday, not learned about, but heard about clubs doing more social things now that COVID is not gone, but it's a little bit safer. So if you have ideas, maybe we'll try another picnic down at Lake Farm Park, something like that, just to socialize for a while now that we can gather more safely. I can't say totally safe, but more safely. Anything else? One thing the foundation and the board talked about was spending some more money. So we will hear more about that as motions are made to the board foundation, or excuse me, the trustees of the foundation, and the board will initiate some of those. So if there are no other things, we are a couple of minutes early. So I have 2 minutes in the bank for when I run over.